Keisha and Sherika.
Obviously, there's serious connotations to it as well. I think this is put that home just a week before we were talking about on a different platform about breast cancer and the effect of breast cancer in the Black community, and then this obviously arose and so on and so forth. Cancer affects everybody. Don't get it twisted. It's not just a Black problem or a white problem or an Asian problem. It's everybody's problem.
And going into work can be very positive for individuals' own mental health. And not necessarily, as Keisha mentioned about well-being, staying at home, but remember, you're not having that interaction that most people are used to.
And some people I'm having the interaction on Teams. I'm having the interaction on Zoom. I'm having the interaction on Skype. Kima, I am using modern technology to engage with my employees and employers. It is working.
Even though they are hype up with the dub play, what thoughts about that?
Well, you said exactly what I was going to mention, that they marketed young voters because they kind of somewhat suspected that maybe the elderly generation might have some difficulty in either wanting to go out to vote or finding it not wanting, or may find it difficult to go out to vote.
But clearly, any way you look at it, make up your mind that in this country, the UK will be funding the TV license one way or the other.
Now, since we're Jamaicans in a way, and there's a song by Josue, "We Don't Come Again." We don't come again, Saturday.
I said, with regards to the toilet paper, we might not get to the bottom of it. There you go.
So, Mr. Sidel is slower than the rest of us, but there you go.
That was genuine. That wasn't like.
Tonight on In Review.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the late one in review with my special guests, which will be coming out shortly. They'll be flying in from different parts of the world, from Timbuktu, from Birmingham, from Jamaica, and you'll be surprised, guys, where they're coming from. I hope you all have a good week, and I'm really excited about this show. I'm always excited about each show in a way, because I think it brings a level of dimension. And also, I like when the viewers, they actually play a part in it and they get very proactive, because it shows that we are really untouched with certain key things and certain news. But before I go any further, I'll just introduce my guests for tonight. And first and foremost, I will bring in Keisha Allen. Keisha, how are you doing today? Now, okay, you can't hear because I checked. I wanted to keep her quiet for a second.
I am so happy to be back again. Another week, SYLBOURNE. Another week
to be back. Where did you go? Where did you go from Thursday?
No, it's a whole week since I've been on the show, so you just feel like I have to wait for a whole week again to come back. Wow. Well, and, I'm really excited about the show.
Well, I tell you, James is even there. James said, "How?"
And look at James. Yes, he's bang on time. Yeah.
And therefore, I will go on to Mr. David Burton, Dr. David Burton. Here he's hiding in the shadows there. You can't hear him because I definitely want to keep him on hold for a bit, but there he is. Bang, David.
Yeah, I'm talking to myself over here.
Well, it's good.
On pause.
Well, listen, it's good to talk to yourself sometimes, because there are people who can't even hear, and some people can't even talk. So at least you got the benefit of both, David.
And I'm my own best friend. So.
Your own best friend. Ricardo Porter, say hello from Jamaica. And ladies and gentlemen, and here we have Kima. Oh no, Kima can't make it today for some strange reason. But all the way flying in, we got Sherika. Sherika,
hi guys. I'm doing very well. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. Sorry, okay. Kima.
You're the Kima today.
I'm the Kima today.
Well, she's the Kima today, but she's Sherika, ladies and gentlemen. Sherika is the organizer and founder of Miss Teen Caribbean UK. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And also she's in the NHS as well. She supports David, making sure that they got the right anesthetics and all those sort of things. Right, No, I don't want that, no, Rika. I don't want that now.
I think I know where we're going with this show today.
Marika, you're an anesthetic nurse, yes?
I'm not an anesthetic nurse, no. I'm an intensive care unit. I was in that field for a bit. Clinical leadership, that's where I am now, but that's cool.
there you go, guys. I pride myself to make mistakes. I pride myself to not be perfect. James, Ice, David, hi, Keisha. Well, listen, guys. It's a very interesting thing, and I'm just going to run off quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Some of the key topics that we're going to look at today: update on the new COVID rules, Brexit, new developments. Are we heading towards a no deal? Diversity, controversial dance with Ofcom complaints. I'm saying, should there be more positive affirmation instead of just hearing all these negative about the dance? Killings in Birmingham, 24 bus late. Is that right? I'm very controversial. Don't car life matters? Oh shit! Why you say that? Don't car life matters? I mean, why are you having cars these days? Doesn't it matter? Anyway, and the congestion, Tooting and gentrification. There's something brewing in Tooting about two persons whose shops were told to leave today. We don't have much information, but we got a little information. And why did the opposition leader, or the one who was vying for office in Jamaica, did not attend the swearing ceremony in Jamaica for Prime Minister Andrew Holness? Many people are asking that question. Sherika has some strong views. Ladies and gentlemen, good. David, first and foremost, COVID. What's going on?
I don't know why we're talking about COVID.
Why are we talking about this terrorist, man? These terrorists keep coming back each time.
So, yeah, COVID update. I'm sure everybody is pretty much aware of the rule of 6 now. So,
yeah.
In the UK, you're restricted to the number of persons we can have in a household as of now. And so that's a government sort of executive order for us all to sort of obey and respect. We know that the people who are able to socialize outdoors is obviously under scrutiny, but also in Bolton, people are not allowed to socialize with any other household at the moment. So this is after a spike in the number of cases, and with respect, and I've spoke about this before, we're going to see a lot more of these kind of local outbreaks and these local lockdowns that are going to be driven by data. And we also know that the number of tests are going up, and the number of people who are obviously testing positive is going up. But the other unfortunate thing is that the test capacity is at its limit. And that's not in the number of tests that can be actually administered, but the tests that can be undertaken in the labs and the laboratories up and down the country. So there's obviously been controversy with the local tests, people in London being told they have to travel real far up north to get the tests undertaken. And that's been a really big burden for the government to sort of have a response to. The second wave is coming, according to WHO. The UK is now under great scrutiny, and I guess my thought here is that there's probably not going to be a whole unified lockdown. That's just my opinion on the matter. But more local lockdowns are affecting a greater number of places up and down the UK. That's my thought. Obviously, I don't have my crystal ball out, but that's just my thought. I think a lot of the work that was undertaken to sort of give rise to furlough, etc., and shutting down of schools and all that jazz, it takes a big burden out of the economy, and I don't think the government will action that on a national level. But we'll wait and see. But I think the biggest thing this week has been the restriction of numbers of people in the household to sort of have entertainment and parties, etc. That's a real big thing going forward.
The bit about people in the household, you're talking about 6, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
So therefore, if somebody have a household of 10, what happens?
I think it's inviting people to your household. This is creating or forming new bubbles, so to speak. Before this, we were pretty much at liberty to do what we like. But now there's the caveat now is it's 6 people maximum, and that's in throughout the whole of the UK.
Keisha, you've always been saying this from day one: stay home and work and just chill. Is that coming to fruition?
SYLBOURNE, I am so pleased that we're here again, because then David and James are both here, and I'm sure we just heard David just said there's going to be a second wave. They're more likely to be a second wave, and we've had this conversation before, and I'm so happy that James is here, David is here. I've been ranting on and on about this back and forth, inconsistent messages that we're hearing from the government. Now they've been changing the rules. We're at the stage where it's no more than 6. So that means if there's a 7th person, suddenly it's unlawful. There's a penalty for bringing somebody into your home. Then we've got how we're hearing sometimes this week, you have all these young people having their house parties, and the government is then blaming a young generation for this, for the increase or the rise in the COVID virus. So a few weeks ago, we heard it was a particular section of the society. Now it's young people. And so this inconsistent messaging is actually frustrating. And what I've been trying to say to the likes of David and James and Keisha, who obviously is not here today, is that we need to have a consistent approach. All the government should have said is stay indoors, like what I've been trying to do, that I've been doing for the past few weeks, and work from home if you can, and let us reduce the the risk of the COVID pandemic spreading. Now, David has confirmed, which is what my inclination has been for some time, that they're more likely to be a second wave.
Okay, I hear you. And Sherika, what's your take on that? I mean, we spoke a lot during the whole lockdown thing. Is it back again whereby we're having that peace on the road?
I mean, the thing about public health and putting out information to the public and to just anyone is that communication is the essential thing and I don't think it's so much inconsistency, but whenever the message is not understood, which is what the government seems to feel as if we're not understanding the message, they try and convey in other ways. So they target other areas just so the message can be understood. So they try to do it with the elderly population, and we kind of was like, yeah, but they had comorbidities and blah, blah, blah. So we weren't as fearful. Then they did the ethnic minorities, and we thought, okay, here we go. And now they're targeting children. We all have to get the message. So whether it's the children, elderly, the young people, the message has to be communicated to the public that ultimately, and I know this is controversial and I'm going to say the V word, but ultimately vaccination is where we're heading, and they have to get it drummed into everybody's head, into all the demographics' head, that whether you're elderly, whether you're young, whether you're black, whether you're white, you need to kind of follow what we're trying to get you to follow, because we need to kind of have this vaccination implemented. So that's my take. I'm happy for COVID lockdown, even though I'm probably going to be working some extra shifts, making some extra money, but I love it and hate it at the same time. But I quite enjoyed a bit of COVID lockdown sometimes, even though I'm on the front line. I know it's very controversial for somebody like me to say it, because I'm in the real front line. I'm in the ITUs and the A&Es. But I quite enjoy a bit of lockdown. I think people do need an extra bit of rest. So
yeah,
I'm gonna come off the road so I can drive in peace.
Yeah, David, if we go back to you now, because I mean, and James, I believe, is going to say, is it that we're getting too scared of COVID?
I think just going back again, I'll answer the question regarding Keisha, and I think it's noble that I still stick to the point that there is going to be a need for people to get back to doing things from a sense of normality, from a mental health point of view. The number of people who have come into the setting that I work in, who have been quite worried about coming in for obvious reasons, but then at the detriment of their own sort of health for other conditions, has been quite an insightful thing for me to see. Worrying at the same time, because I think that why is it that people are waiting so long to come to me with an eye condition? And then if you take that back to the number of people who have passed away through conditions that could have been treated potentially by a fully open NHS, which has been open for business, for treatable conditions, heart, stroke, heart attack, those sort of things. It does make you a little bit worried that the messages that we were given for people to stay at home have been confused with, if you have an ailment that needs treating, then please do come to the hospital. And I think that's really difficult to convey that message. I'm not giving any sort of cover up for the government and its inconsistency, etc. But at the same time, I think it is very confusing for patients, and it's very confusing for people and caregivers to sort of act in a manner that we want them to in regards to the face of COVID. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I think, is that we obviously as a nation need to sort of try and follow advice, and that advice needs to be consistent for clarity and very simple. And I think where you have issues regarding sort of face masks and where you wear them and how you wear them and where you interact, etc., it makes things very difficult. So you could have a simplistic message, they stay at home, but I think from a mental health point of view, that's not giving anybody any great joys in life, and it's not really going to help, as I say, from a health point of view. Where I stand at the moment is that I think if you look across the board, many countries are going through this second kind of wave.
Yes.
And it's not just the UK, it is a global issue, and people will tend to relax. Do I think that the fear factor's out? No, I don't. I still think people are quite fearful of what's going on and the predicaments that will be faced going forward. And you know, with every day that it goes forward, there are going to be an element of people that will relax, but also those people who will still be quite fearful. So you know, we'll just see how things go. And I think the more that we can get the testing out, I do agree with Rika regarding the vaccinations. I don't think it's the panacea. I don't think it's the silver lining. I don't think it's going to make that we all return back to a sense of normality, but I do think it will take away some of the impact that this particular virus has had on society. But I go back to what I said earlier. I don't think we're going to have a full, this is my opinion now, I don't think we're full lockdown again. I just can't see that happening.
Well, before I go on to Rika, I know what Boris said in his speech yesterday, saying this is not a lockdown, but if we don't do this, we find a lockdown. That's what he's actually saying. And we're talking about places like Burton, isn't it? Manchester, talking about a lockdown. So nothing really stops a lockdown if we're seeing these signs. But David and Rika, people are saying, well, we're not that they want to see the death, but they're saying, where are people dying? People are not dying.
Well, there will be a true fact now. Remember, there's a lead time for people unfortunately passing away. And remember, this virus was circulating way before we decided to lock down, and way before it was on the mindset, I would say, or at the forefront of sort of government initiatives. Public Health England may well have been aware, and that may have been fed up the food chain. And I'm postulating here, but the fact is, this has been around for a longer period of time. So there's a long lead time, and I wouldn't watch that sort of end result. Obviously, we're better prepared now as well. Right. But we're going to have to live with this virus for a very, very long time.
Right. Rika, you want to say something? Yeah.
I think I would kind of somewhat agree. Fear is part of controlling the people to do what you want them to do. So to eliminate fear will not, that's not going to happen. They do not want to eliminate fear. They want you to be a bit worried and a bit at the feeding point of their hands. So that's part of the strategy in when you're trying to lead, when you're trying to rule, when you're trying to get someone to follow, is that you implement fear. And unfortunately, that's just what we do, whether we knowingly know that that's happening or we unknowingly, it happens. Fear is part of the strategy. So eliminating fear will not be discontinued until they get the result that they're looking for. So if you think that by doing things so people can be less fearful, they might say that that's what they're going to do. But in the true act of ruling and trying to drive people to do what you want to do, especially strong people, you implement fear. We all know that. I mean, that's no secret. But
I'm sorry, Keisha, what's your take on what Sherika said? Because I'm going to go straight into this other topic about the congestion charge and the 24-hour, because there are people who are linking everything together with this COVID terrorists.
My view is the government inconsistent message is actually is a contributing factor to the fear, you know, that people are experiencing. You know, last week we were being advised, or the government was very adamant that we need to go back into the office. We need to go to take the train and go into city for work. Yes. And this week we now have the rule of 6. So it is just inconsistent. It's frankly unacceptable. And I think that, you know, there needs to be some type of review in terms of how the government is actually sending out these messages. You know, there's something I think is fundamentally wrong. Something has gone wrong there with, you know, what we hear last week to what we're hearing this week. It's they should be looking at the trends before they actually start saying these drastic, significant changes.
I think you're right. And James, you need to look at this as well. James on the sideline, because the government last week was saying with Nick Ferrari saying, get back to work, get back to work.
Yes,
These businesses in the city, they need a footfall. We need to, because they're going to run out of business and therefore things are going to get worse. Children, get back to work. Churches, get back to normal. And then all of a sudden, one more thing. Like David has been benefiting from eat. Go out and eat as well. Eat.
Yes, that too.
Yeah, and therefore this new message. But then at the same time, isn't it that the responsibility, and I put this to David, isn't therefore, even though the government is saying that, but they also have to check the signs, David. If the science is actually saying that there's a spike, don't they have to move with the science?
Of course, there has to be this discussion with the scientists as well, and I'm not privy to the discussions that have been taking place between government and the scientists. Okay, I'm not privy to that, but at the same time, I think there's a balance that the government has to make, and their balance. And I'm not saying that it's the perfect balance. I'm not saying it's a good balance. I'm not saying it's a bad balance. I'm just saying that this is what they've done with the information. And quite obviously now, you've heard in the recent days that then the scientists have come out and said what they've said, and that's changed the position of the government, maybe forced the government's hand in one respect. Because I wouldn't expect the scientists to have last week said, oh, it's back to normal and back to business, and then this week now to change, because the numbers are there for everybody to see. So yeah. There's obviously discussions that have been had, there's political decisions that have been had, and that's just the way that things have sort of materialized over the past week to 10 days. That's my feeling.
Well, listen, guys, this is what I think about COVID. You know, stay alert, control the virus, and save lives. Do you agree?
I agree.
Agree? I think that's the best way, really. And I'm just going to jump straight into this thing because I saw this article talking about Transport for London unveiled plans for a 24-hour bus lane to help capital's coronavirus recovery. So at the same time, they're looking for recovery, and at the same time, we are regressing. How does that look? Sherika, what's your take about this whole 24-hour bus lane? You know, is what are they doing? Shutting up? How does this help?
Is in regards to the COVID, I was just having a look at the Worldometer. Actually, I was trying to get some actual statistics. We're number 13 in the COVID spike, so that's what I was just having a look at some data for you guys, so I could give you some like up-to-date stuff. But back to the 24/7 bus lane. I'm a driver. I'm not for it, but I do know that they said that the mayor was trying to recuperate the 1.3 billion that he had lost from locking things down and giving free travel through COVID. So this was part of recuperating the money that was lost over COVID. So we knew it wasn't going to be free for long. We knew somebody had to pay, and it seems that this is it now. We're getting the bill for it. So the 24/7 bus lane, I'm totally in disagreement with it, as you know. And the other way they're trying to make the money back is the congestion charge being, £15 and up until 10 p.m. 7 days a week. So they're just trying to get their money back basically, because nothing is free. So
Keisha, you still saying AR?
Can you see me? Yes, I absolutely agree with what Keisha just said. It seems to be a more commercial or economic decision, and it's quite interesting because a few years ago we have this mayor talking about the reducing air pollution, climate change, and all that. We have this conversation, or at least he had this conversation on the radio and so on, talking about the need to reduce air pollution. And now there seems to be all that gone out of the window. We're just suddenly at this place where, okay, how we can make the money, let's do it. So increase have 24-hour bus lane, increase congestion charge. I mean, I don't understand what's happening. But I really do think that, again, I'm not for it. I'm just not for it this at the moment.
Now, if I just read a couple of things right there, it says bus lanes will be in operation 24 hours a day on some of the capital's busiest roads on the new plans aimed at speeding up journeys in post-lockdown London. Transport for London has set a proposal to extend operating hours in recognition of the customer shift away from peak hours sparked by the coronavirus pandemic. A trial of a 24-hour corridor system planned for late summer will see bus journeys become quicker and throughout the day as extended or will reduce rush or congestion, people said. So it seems what they're trying to do is somewhat to boost the city, to get that.
Yes, it's an economic decision. That's what I think as well. Absolutely.
And who do you think will be impacted? The key workers. So if we go back into a lockdown and they say, okay, we're back in a lockdown, but now there's 24/7 bus lane. Now that there's a congestion charge from who will need to use these services? Key workers. So it's all a bit of a, like you said, it's a little bit of a. I don't know the adjective, but it doesn't sit well, and that's all I know. It just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, I was just saying. I think in terms of sort of having 24-hour bus lanes, I think I've had two particular issues. The first one is making sure the buses are safe for passengers to get on and off. You don't really want congestion on a bus with lots of people. Even if you're wearing a face mask, it's very difficult if you're congested to respect the 1 meter rule on the bus. And obviously, then a bus is considered more than six people on a particular place, so that's quite challenging to pull off. The second thing is, outside of the financial, obviously, implications, I'd probably, and I say this really strangely, if you asked me a year ago, probably not, but I would say you should probably encourage more cycling in and around the city. People much more fitter getting on their bike. I know that cyclists sort of sometimes are the scourge of the nation in one respect for people who are in cars, but when you're on the road and you're cycling, then it's the other way around. So maybe that would be a route into sort of trying to get more people, but safer cycle routes are probably a way forward. I know that will take away from the financial implication of having a bus route, but I think that's the other thing I would draw reference to.
I mean, I know David came into London recently, and on the back of his car was 3 bicycles, and I mean, his wife, his son, and himself. And when we met up in London, he said bicycles are hot property. Yeah. You know, we have to make sure that where he parked was so secure, because. But is it that bicycles are hot property because people want to be healthy, David, or they just want to teach it?
I think a bit of both. I think James will share on this, but I had my bike stolen outside of a hospital in Manchester my second day at work. So they are hot property. You must protect them, not with your life, but just protect them.
Yes. I go to James here and say in Manchester they have turned large sections of our roads, including bus lane, into cycling. It's shocking the way the disease is being used to disrupt our lives in a different way. Mayors should be redundant position if they carry on in this way. Congestion charge, and it goes further, and this is the point I want to pick up. Congestion charge, bus lanes, things in London, nonsense has totally contradicts the current message regarding COVID. Sherika, we were talking at one point, they were saying, this is all a plan. This is all leading to something, leading to everybody getting vaccinated, where the government is now totally controlling how people move.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you are in the situation, you don't see the bigger plan. But whenever I always look at these things because I'm like a war person. But whenever you see a script of something, there's always dots that connect to where they're going in the bigger picture. So we are all sitting here thinking, oh, I don't want bus lane. Oh, Brexit's getting on my nerves. This is upsetting me. That's upsetting me. But it's all part of a bigger picture, It's all part of a bigger picture. We don't know what the real big picture is yet. Maybe we do. Maybe we can speculate. But it's for a bigger picture. So bus lanes being 24/7 is an economic decision. We know that. Having people furloughed for this long, somebody has to pay for these things. It has to be paid for. There's only so much you can take out of the tax. They're probably going to increase taxes again. There is you sitting at home having family time. If they could have done this before, they would have done this before. So somebody has to pay for it. And this is what we're doing now. We're paying for it. And we just have to wake up and smell the roses there. I remember I live right by the hospital. And I remember walking out and seeing a family pushing a buggy, walking, having great quality time. I mean, somebody has to pay for the furlough that somebody has to pay for these things. Yeah. And here we go, we're paying for it now. So let's not be shocked when we start getting hit with some strong penalties for different things, because it has to be paid for.
Yeah. Okay. Before I move on, Keisha, any last word on that in regards to these lanes? I know your position already.
Yes, well, I already said my position. Yeah. But I do appreciate that London at the moment, I understand, is like ghost town. So it is what it is. But I still oppose the idea of actually
No,
having
it's not. Did you say it was like a ghost town?
That's my understanding. I haven't been to the city for the past
No,
6-7 months.
It's very congested. Very congested.
Well, I see people going around and not wearing the mask. People are not taking. I don't know if they're not taking it serious or they're forcing it to be normal. In Jamaica now, they're reaching a point where they call it community spread. Community spread is whereby the government is not able to. They can go and give all this speech now, but they're saying they can't trace it. Is that, David? Is that what community spread is?
That's what community spread is, and that's what I was talking about earlier about people picking that up. If people are saying, if the government is saying a 1 meter plus rule with a mask inside a building and people aren't doing that, there's got to be a degree of common sense.
Yes.
And that has to be adhered to.
And it's interesting in Jamaica. It seems like Jamaica is just reaching to the point where we were at just before March. Reaching that level now. Maybe it has been a part of the election spike or so, but we'll touch on that at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I'm with Keisha, Allen, Dr. David Burton, Sherika Miller, and we're looking at the various topics. Guys, I must say I felt a bit heartened today when I saw this topic and the whole big debate going around regarding Brexit, because it sort of took us back into, wow, we're back to normal, get Brexit done, fighting in Parliament and boom, 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 what do you guys think about this whole thing? Did you miss Brexit? Did you miss that whole discussion? I mean, did anybody miss it? Keisha, did you miss the word Brexit?
I miss it a little bit. I mean, I'm glad that we actually having this conversation again, because as you know, they have this hoopla about Brexit, and people just having to choose a side whether they want to stay in or go. And now there seemed to be a pause at for a while, and here we are again. The B word has come back, in all our lives, and it's quite interesting week, because clearly Brussels has given Boris Johnson 3 weeks to drop plans to break international law or the UK face financial or trade sanctions. So that's what one of the EU lawyers said. But Michael Bonner, the EU chief Brexit negotiator. Yeah, so I agree with what he had said on Twitter. He said, for there to be any future relationship between the EU and the UK, there must be mutual trust and confidence between us to the emperor in the future. So, we need to actually have a deal. We need to somehow, the government needs to get around the table and actually sort out a trade deal between the UK and the EU. Because we all know, we cannot underestimate the fact that any practical or economic or even social, we can't underestimate the fact that the consequence that this will have, the practical, the economic, and the social consequences the no deal scenario will have. So it's really important that we actually have a deal, and I'm hoping that Boris, take this matter, more seriously and sort it out.
But it is very important, as people understand, that the only reason why Boris Johnson won that election was because of Brexit, people loaning the votes.
But on a single issue, that's why we're where we are right now. Yeah. Because the only reason why he's been elected, a lot of people lent him the vote, because there was a point when people said, we had enough of this back and forth indecisions, happening within the whole of the UK. And, there was one person who stood up and said, listen, if you trust me, if you lend me a vote, I will get us out of the EU. And that is why he's actually, have been elected. So,
I'd like to know what James and other persons say, because the government says Parliament is sovereign and can pass laws which breach the UK international treaty obligations. David, what's your take in regards to Brexit? Are you happy that it is back to normal? At least in the level of normalcy. Brexit. Get Brexit done.
Brexit back on the table.
Yes.
Brexit, COVID. I don't know. I'm not sure. I want both off. But in all seriousness, I think picking up on that last point in regards to how Boris got the vote, I think it was, for my perception was that it was more so about the perceived lack of leadership from the opposition. Why Boris got the vote. People didn't feel they could lend or give their vote to somebody who they didn't perceive as a natural leader. Obviously, Brexit was on the table, and that was one of the reasons. But
sorry, David, I agree with you completely there. To a certain extent, I think if I could recall correctly, he was indecisive, as in Labour Party generally was indecisive as to whether it's they should remain
Yes.
or leave. So
Exactly.
that's what
And we talk about
lack of
messages.
leadership.
We talk about messages. I think there was a clear lack of kind of a message from the Labour Party, and then people felt from historically they couldn't vote for the Lib Dems as well. So I think it was a very complex issue, but it was nonetheless in regards to how Boris got his come up. And in regards to how we're moving forward, it seems quite erratic. That's my opinion on the matter. I think it's to not have a deal is never a good thing for anybody. Divorce is never a great thing, or seldom is a great thing. One side wins and one side potentially loses. So an agreement in principle is always going to be the better thing. However, I think in this instance, what we'll find is the erraticness will come at the 11th hour, and there will be an agreement that's reached, but ultimately it will be a late agreement. This is all politicking. This is politics at the end of the day, or politics. And we're just watching this unfold in front of our eyes. So I think there'll be a deal. Rewind this in 4 months' time. Rewind this interview in 4 months' time and see if I stand corrected.
Enrica?
I'm sorry to say, I'm not sure there will be a deal. I think that at this point in the game, a lot of countries, I say people, will be looking after self. And so far I don't know how long since it's been Brexit. Has it been 9 months now?
Well, since after the election, then they got the go ahead fully. I mean, we voted in 20. I don't remember now.
Yeah,
how many times did we vote?
20
over the single issue.
20. Yeah. And I mean, I just need some clarification. Where do we stand now? Are we operating on Are we operating on a deal program?
No, there's no deal. There's nothing final as yet, and we're going through the point whereby we eventually leave. We've got the withdrawal bill.
The withdrawal agreement. That's where we are right now.
We still have deals in place. It's the fact that we're going to be leaving without a deal.
Yeah.
So how are we operating now? Are we operating on the same trades that we were on before? Are we doing the same thing as if there is the relationship still? Are we still operating?
We still have a relationship currently.
Right.
So we'll be falling out of that falling off the cliff soon.
Okay, I understand. Right. I don't have much to say because I don't know much. But if we're operating in the marriage at the moment, I can't foresee how it would be in a single family home. I don't have a clue, but so far it feels like you said, David, it might be a bit erratic. They might go, okay, well, we have no deal. Let's see what this new world is going to be like. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, I tell you what. Well, at least that is back in the conversation, and people can somewhat take their mind a bit off COVID and just carry on. I don't know about you guys, but one of my children went back to school this week, and children just all over the place. Just jump back into COVID. They're all over the place. I mean, it's like normal.
Well,
normalcy.
Everybody's jumping all over the place. Back to this deal though. It's interesting because I think what will shape what happens is a lot of what happens in the US with their elections. So Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, came out today and basically warned off the UK from its current path and said there will be no trade deals with the US. But that will obviously depend on what happens in the US elections.
Exactly.
So, I think what happens in the US will impact the UK. What happens elsewhere is obviously going to impact the UK and its trade negotiations going forward. But there's still a lot to occur in the next few months before we establish the true trajectory of British politics.
I think Nancy needs to focus on her hairdressing parlor or something like that, James, where she got caught up or something like that. But anyway, guys, listen, let's move on quickly. We'll touch on that one. There's a very interesting thing which came up this week, and there was this dance by Diversity Group. I don't know if you saw it, but I didn't see it. Personally, I haven't seen it, but it's been in the news about the dance which he did, and there was someone with their head and neck, their knee on his neck, and people have complained. I think it's gone to 10,000 now, over 10K complaints. What's your take on that? Is it? Okay, my question is this: if Ofcom is receiving 10,000 complaints, and lots of people are saying they love it, shouldn't 20,000 affirmation go towards Ofcom to say we love it?
Well, nobody ever reads the complaints. It's like when you get a complaint in the NHS, they never look at but the thank yous and all the cards that's posted on the walls and the chocolates and the flowers that are given. They always look at the one person that said they've been left on the bed for two hours more than they needed to be on that bed or whatever. Yeah. So nobody ever really feedback on a positive note. Even with our show, we had a show the other day, maybe we contributed to the spike, who knows, but we are looking at the people who are saying the more stronger negative points because we want to improve. So to the diversity thing, I watched the whole thing, even though, like I said, it's not my thing to watch, but I watched it. He didn't kneel on his neck, just so you guys know. For those who didn't watch it, he didn't kneel on his neck in the dance. He was lying down, and the white dancer knelt beside his face to reenact the George Floyd incident. So he didn't put his knee on his neck, not from what I could see anyway. But I think it was just too pro-black, and it's getting a bit uncomfortable for a lot of people. You don't want to see somebody else dominating your airways, taking over, because you don't know what that means for you. You don't know what that means for your own family. You don't know what that means for your livelihood and your children and your own safety when they're fully saying we are rising up and they're showing you this. So it is also people being fearful and complaining, like we don't want to be fearful of our own lives whilst we're watching a dance program with our 4-year-old child. We don't want to do that. So it was too pro-black, not from my perspective, but from the potential perspective of others. That could be one of the issues.
Keisha, what's your take on it? Is it that sports, musicians, and everybody which just like to watch are becoming so much involved in politics, and people say, "Oh, for Pete's sake, I'm tired of Brexit. I'm tired of COVID. I just want to enjoy watching TV." Do I have to get into politics now? What is that? Is people sending a message there, or what? Are these people racist?
I just think there's just some people just have too much time on their hands, you know. No, seriously. I think when you look at, and I did watch it, and I agree with you, Rika. It's not the knee as such that was on his neck. It's his the white person had his hand over his neck, so the image is still there of clearly oppression by a police officer. But the point is, what we've seen is the politicizing or politicizing of the art form, and there's absolutely nothing new about that. A lot of musicians, entertainers historically have used their art form to perpetuate certain type of messages, and they have every right to do so. It's their lived experience, and if clearly the diversity leader was moved for the past few weeks by what's been happening in the news and decided to create an art form reflecting what's actually happening in current affairs, then he has every right to do that. Now, when it comes to the complaint, everybody, if you're bothered by it, you have a right to make a complaint to Ofcom. But I'm not quite sure exactly what the complaint is about. So it'd be nice if Ofcom actually gave us a breakdown as to what these type of complaint, because it could be varied, you see. Maybe some people just didn't like the lightning effect, or the sound, or maybe there's just too much carry on at the time. Maybe it's not about the politics behind it. We just don't. We perhaps really need clarity as to what this issue or this complaint is about. And then the other point is, I understand in the news that the leader is it Banjo? His name is
Jordan Banjo. Yes.
Yes. he's been, he appears that he's very devastated at the moment as to what's happening, and I think there is again, I think we talked about a few weeks ago about people actually putting certain messages online, and I'm seeing these messages, it's really sad that people have the audacity to say all these negative things about people and people talent. But at the same time, there are people who are actually talking about the performance being, incredible, moving, awesome. So there is a balance in terms of what we're seeing with the diversity program or dance routine. I think it is what it is. As a performer, as an artist, he should. It's great that they've actually did it. But it's not for everybody. That's what art is about. Some people don't like certain type of music. Some people don't like certain type of style. But it's there. It is available for whoever want to be entertained by it.
Let's see what James said. I'm sorry, Keisha, but to say those who are offended simply have too much time on their hand is entirely unfair. I strongly disagree with that. I tell you what, the general complaint is if you don't understand. So James, David is going to share his views now, and if you can tell.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know what James' general complaint is. Is it because it's political, or is it because it's too much things happening? What is exactly the complaint? Because I haven't quite seen it in the news. Just like a lot of people making complaints. Exactly what it's about.
Keisha, James is going to say that. David, your take on this, because it's a very controversial topic.
Well, it appears to be very controversial. I think it's built up a little steam. Obviously, 10,000 complaints you've seen have been lodged in regards to this. In the grand scheme of things, I'd like to know, again, like Keisha said, what the complaints were, because you can't just take it as face value that we know what these complaints are. I think that's quite wrong to say we're speculating. I think that the first thing is that people don't want to be reminded of the harshities of life and haven't tuned in to watch this program to see that on their TV screen. So that's one thing I would speculate is probably a root cause of why people may have felt upset or offended. But art is there to imitate life. We draw reference to certain things from life, and we create that. And this is the way that Diversity felt that they wanted to show how things how the transition of particular events during the course of what they see in their lives. So I don't particularly hold them to any account in that regard. Again, it would have gone through particular groups of who would have vetted the dance act and deemed it appropriate to be put on TV as well. So doesn't mean that we can't have a discussion about it. It doesn't mean that it's right to be put on the TV show, but at the same time, it was deemed to be appropriate for TV. And again, it's art. It's imitating what people see through their own eyes.
Well, the thing about it, Famalia was deemed to be appropriate for TV. The show that people are complaining about depicting.
And it was still shown, Silbo.
And it's still shown.
So that's the point I'm trying to make here. It was right onto, so I'm glad you picked that up. It was still shown on TV. So, at least there's parity in that regard. But, that doesn't mean that people can't complain. And I think that people should be given the format to do that. And we need to hear their message.
I think you're right. At the end of the day, people have a right to complain. People have a right to share their views. People, we're in this society now whereby people get offended easily. If they get offended, well, that's the case. I was just reading something here a while ago, and it says, Diversity BLM inspired Britain's Got Talent became the second most complained about TV moment of the decade, with over 10K viewers contacting Ofcom. I was interested. 10K contacting Ofcom, that's one thing. Next question would be, what is the contact about? As you guys have set out, as Keisha said, what is the complaint about? Is it about the noise? Is it about music? Is it about, Ofcom spokesman said that on Tuesday, complaints at 37,581. Monday, the figures stood at 1,121. Tuesday, 2,966. And the new figures came as dancer Jordan got teary as he discussed the horrible message the group have received. Then he got more complaints. So while he's on the sofa there being teary, it shut up even more. Let's hear what Alta said. Alta said, people are just scared of anything black. let that one rest right there. Them scared of everything black. James break it down a bit further by saying it's simple. The general complaint is that all they're doing is perpetrating of further racism. Only message is racist, is to white people in general. The vast majority of white people do not and have never committed a racist act.
James, I do take issue with that point. I'm really sorry. This is not about.
Yeah, but Keisha, this is the point that we just talked about. Everybody have a right to views, and
yes, and I'm very happy that he actually expressed his views, because this is how we debate and this is how we discuss these issues.
Yes.
Now, clearly, based on his comment, it appears that he seemed to think that that was intended to be a racist performance against white people. But clearly, we know what that was about. That was a reflection of what was happening in the US regarding George Floyd. That's basically what the storyline is about.
Also, just to add to what you're saying, Keisha, it is just a reflection, but it was the wrong. You have to judge your culture, your organization. You have to judge your audience as well. So it was just the wrong. I think if he was to do the same exact performance to Americans, it would be almost more receptive. It would be welcomed. But you have to remember the culture of the people here. You have to remember how they are, what they stand for, how they act, the demeanors, and that was a very bold and boisterous performance. And we know that English people prefer the underdogs, the undertones, the less boisterous people, that kind of environment. So they kind of went above what the culture of this country appreciates, which is
I think again you're generalizing, Rika, because we're dealing with different type of people within the UK, and some of us actually are quite happy if what they're reflecting is the reality of what's actually around us.
I actually agree with you, and I'm glad you kind of counteracted with that statement. But we do have to remember that we are not the majority, and that's why we have to just remember that. So even though we exist as a mind,
but we should no longer live a life that we're actually the other people, the other minority group.
It's just a lower number of this type of people. So it doesn't mean you're lesser. It doesn't mean that you are any lower. It's just a lower number of people that are in this country. Because London may be vibrant and full of lots of different people, but it's not like that when you go into different parts of the town in the UK. We're talking about the United Kingdom here, not just London, not just one city, Manchester or Birmingham. We're talking about the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, we are lesser numbers of people. That's
absolutely.
What it means.
And I know what James said. James clarifying what he said. I didn't say it was racist. I said it perpetuates racism. There's a difference. David, how can you put the final word on this? Because I think this is a conversation which need to be discussed more. David, what's your final?
I think in terms of artistry, you can read it in many different ways. And perceptions are always obviously going to be there. Some people are going to look at this and say, actually, this is something that's positive. Somebody's going to look at it and say that it's negative, and some people will be in the middle. And that's just the way that this particular event has been recognized. As Rika said, we generally don't, as people, this is a generalization here, we generally don't applaud more than we criticize. And so you'll hear the voices, the critical voices, more so than the voices that will applaud things. And that's just the way that news crumbles. We're more than happy to hear a negative news story and skip over the positive ones. I'm not saying that this is, I'm not trying to demote or devolve any particular angst that this particular diversity sketch or show has caused, an event has caused, but at the same time, I've got to take it for what it is, and it's artistry, and people will hold it in high regard and people will hold it in negative regard. And I think it's all about perception. That's
Yeah. I think the point which I flagged up, and I was speaking to someone earlier, and what I flagged up there is that the negative, the complaints versus the positive affirmation, there need to be something that counterbalance it, because if it's different views, and that's what Kwame right here said, they don't like anything which highlights their own shortcoming. It's pushing them into the face, and they don't like what they see. The question is,
thank you, author.
And the question is, the question is, who is they? Lisa King, being the minority doesn't mean the minority doesn't have a voice.
Thank you. Well said.
Okay. And James Singleton says as well, the performance offers no solution and only stirs pain, nothing helpful or even original creative.
Well, what James
wait,
said
wait. Let me just say something right there. Artistic thing, and Bob Marley, for argument's sake, reflected what was happening in Jamaica with Trenchtown and all these, Buju Banton and everybody, whether they said it wrong at that time, reflected. So I think, James, at the same time, and everyone, I think the best way to do this, instead of going back and forth against each other, is to recognize that whether we like it or not, music reflects. I like rapping. When I remember I used to like this rap called Grandmaster Flash, talk about the message. It's a jumblesome time when you wonder where things going. And I was standing in the rampart watching all the breeze, watching all the people go, and they talk about this lady and they got shot or something like that. They're reflecting what is happening. It may seem like it is perpetuating, but it's actually a reflection. And I believe this is something that people may not agree on, but I believe it is something that the discussion needs to be had on in regards to this particular thing.
Well, I don't watch Roots for a reason.
You didn't watch Roots?
I would never watch these things. I don't watch slavery shows. I don't watch 12 Years a Slave. I didn't watch the Windrush thing. I don't watch, and it's part of history. It reflects, but I think how people portray is their own interpretation of what happens, and I would prefer to go and read it up or look it up and create my own interpretation of something. So James is right, you know. The performance, it offers no solution. With Bob Marley, they offered a balance. Love, could this be? They offered love and they offered
come
solution.
on, seriously.
Of course they did.
No, absolutely. No, you can listen to one Bob Marley song and there's no solution. Then you listen to another Bob Marley song and there's a solution. This story comes in different facets. So clearly, what is this the diversity have perpetuated or shown here is actually the reality is what's actually happening now. The fact that we have so many complaints, if it's based on racism or people are being feeling moved or disappointed by what's actually what they saw, it just reveals the ugly underbelly of our system or what's actually happening in the UK. That's what this is demonstrating at the moment. If people are so, you know, the idea of being an art form is perpetuating racism.
But Keisha, look how it makes you
really
feel. But Keisha, look how it makes you feel. If something makes you feel this way, it's not a positive thing.
No, but
it creates anger. Yeah. It creates frustration.
No, well, I'm not angry. I'm not angry.
You're angry. I'm not saying you're angry. I'm saying it creates anger. It creates frustration.
So who could possibly be angry at what we actually?
Okay.
At the realities of what we actually see.
As I said,
what they did is nothing new that we did not know. Everybody was moved and provoked by George Floyd.
Keisha, I might have to put you on mute, guys.
I got kicked out last time of this.
It's at 10 o'clock now, and we don't want to risk or anybody kick us out or something like that. But I have to bring in this topic here. And it's very interesting because there's another issue which might make you get more angry, and this is something which is happening in Tooting. David, let me just take you out for a not take you out. Let me just remove you slightly just to bring in this.
Doing so well and reaching it. Now you're taking me. I thought reaching it. Now you're taking me. It's okay.
Let me just play this bit here regarding something which is taking place in Tooting, which I was brought attention to, but I don't have much information. But we're just going to show something, please. Just 1 second. And here we go.
Tooting market. No to ethnic cleansing in Tooting market. No to ethnic cleansing in Tooting market. No to ethnic cleansing in Tooting market.
What they're saying there is no to ethnic cleansing in Tooting market. No to ethnic cleansing in Tooting market.
All right.
No to ethnic cleansing in Tooting market. Now, what has happened? And this message has been coming to me from this morning with a video. I don't have the right to show the video, so I'm not going to do it because a couple of times I take up my big self showing video, showing dub plate with Jamaican politics, and the man just copyright
strike you.
I didn't get lawyers to fight YouTube. As I say, I was just joking, man. You know, but there's an incident happening in Tooting there in the market whereby there's a guy named Hugh Crawford. I think he's the brother of Miles Crawford, Carl Crawford, and there's another guy who has this shop there with fish, and apparently police went there and raided them, and went to their home as well. One of them took up his partner money to say that they were having some drugs, which they believed that they were, and they said also they were successful at it. And as a result of that, there's a big hoo-ha about it. And I think they're supposed to be going today. So that the second move is ethnic cleansing and gentrification. I don't know if anybody saw anything about it. I don't have the full facts. I was trying to get somebody to come on, but I didn't.
I live in Tooting. I live in Tooting. Well, I stay in Tooting predominantly, and I walk in the market regularly because it is my local market, and there is a change of environment. You don't see the same level of blacks and other people selling their goods how they would. It's changed completely. I mean, I don't know what to say. Do I like it? I somewhat like it, but it's not good for the livelihood of people who's been there and made the market what it is. But do I still eat from the shops that are there now? I do. Do I still buy drinks and whatever? I do, but it's not fair. So I do, just to let you know, if there's a witness, I've seen it. Yes, it has changed. It's been gentrified. And it's quite shocking actually when you walk into the market how changed it is. You would never believe it's the same Tooting market up until a year ago actually. So this change is pretty new, maybe a year and a half ago.
David, when we were in Brixton recently, when he came to London, and we walked through briefly in Brixton, that wasn't the normal Brixton, which looked like many years ago as well. Especially in that section there in the market.
Yeah. So I'm led to believe that at least in terms of the marketplace, there is I have to be fact checked on this, but that there's written into the
David, sorry, we all marvel that you have this boombox and this lovely, but we're not hearing you. You need to.
I think because you kicked me out. That's why you can't kick me out, and now the mic doesn't work. Thanks,
okay.
Everyone.
Yeah, bring it. Oh, who's gone? Keisha went and come back. Okay, right.
Is it better now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, much better. Yeah.
What I was saying is, I think Brixton market has written into its laws that there has to be a degree of mixture of cultures within the facility itself. I guess that's dissimilar to the way that Tooting has its current setup and practice. Gentrification obviously occurs in all places potentially, and I don't particularly agree with that. And in regards to this particular case, I think we need more facts. If these guys are being kicked out for reasons that are not lawful, then I would say that some people will have to lawyer up quite highly, because I think there'll be a community backing to help these guys out. But obviously we don't know the full facts of the case. We don't know why it is that they're being moved on, and we don't know whether it is that there's been any particular illegalities on their behalf. So I can't really comment on that fact. But what I can comment on is the fact that if there is some foul play at hand to try and underhand them so they can get them moved out, then I think the lawyers will definitely have a field day in trying to sort of fight their case on their behalf. And maybe that's fruitful for the people who want to get them out. But I think the other thing is that the community can easily action this. They can choose where they want to shop. They can choose where they want to go, and they can support other places if they so feel. But the only issue with that is obviously there are local people within the Tooting market that have acted accordingly and are still wanting to work and have their livelihoods.
Exactly what I would.
So it's a real problem. It's a catch-22.
Yeah.
However, if you do, I guess, shop at these establishments that have been kicked out, you continue to support them if you can. If there's,
Keisha wasn't kicked out. They said because they were kicked out. Keisha wasn't kicked out.
I don't know what happened there.
He's hiding. So yeah, that's just my feeling that we need to get more information, as you quite rightly said at the top of this particular. We need to find out what's happened and why it is that the police were called to the establishment, and what grounds that occurred. We just need to fact-finding. That's what needs to occur. I'm not going to be on either camp at the moment, but I don't agree with gentrification. I definitely don't.
Yeah, and someone sent me this article in The Guardian. It's a petition to save a Jamaican-owned food business in Tooting Market that's earned more than 5,000 signatures in a day. after the owner was served an eviction notice. I believe it was today they were supposed to be evicted. According to the petition, the owner of the lone fisherman was served a 3-day eviction notice following a police raid which took place last weekend. Last Saturday evening, September 5th, officers executed 2 search warrants in Tooting Market, which were later described as having been successful in a tweet from Tooting Police local station, police team. But the petition insists that nothing illegal was found at the lone fisherman, claiming that the eviction came as a result of the police raid. And so there's a petition going around. And as I said, I'm a person who strongly believes that these things need to be addressed. But I personally love to get the facts. I love to get more information because we don't know. We only, they're showing Jamaica there's 2 sides of the story. But it is something I believe needs to be flagged up. But one of the things that I thought when I saw it there, and I said 2 things. One, there are these 2 guys, and we're coming out of the COVID bit, and therefore they may not have, let's say, money to their disposal that very much. And what if something unjust happened to someone? Where can they go to? When we talk about an injunction, my first thing was that there needs to be an injunction. Is there a resource pool within the Black community, for argument's sake, where people can go to? And if there's not a resource pool, where can they go to instantly? Should you start to a GoFundMe immediately? There should be some sort of resource pool where certain criteria is fit. And therefore they can go there and say, listen, but not just for everybody to just go to there because they're having some hardship. But in key things like this that maybe have some racial undertone, gentrification undertone, discrimination undertone. So I'm flagging up these particular issues there, but this can only work properly when we get the facts. But I wanted to really flag this up as something that we need to be aware of, because I believe there could be an issue. Any thoughts? And there's a lot of thoughts here actually on the slide here, but keep talking about. Right?
I think that the points that you raised there, we don't know that that there won't be that support offered to these folks if in the full face of fact they've done nothing wrong. The community can continue, and obviously in that video that you played just then, the unified voice, both black, white,
yes,
were unified in that voice. So I think we just have to let the facts come out. I think when it comes to early stories like this, it's easy to pass comment and say, "Oh, this is, this or this is that." I'd like to hear the full facts. I want to hear. I mean, because obviously the police, it looked like there was a tweet that came out to say there was a successful raid that occurred, etc., etc. We want just the full facts, and then we can pass commentary. But again, from a gentrification point of view, I'm not particularly sold on that being a great thing. And moving people out like that.
Keisha, your thoughts, even though not just to say that we are commenting on this issue, just for the record.
Yeah, I think I'd rather get the facts first before I could actually comment. I'm not sure why the use of ethnic cleansing is used though, rather than gentrification, because clearly when we think about ethnic cleansing, I can't help but think about what's happening in the developing countries, certain countries. So I am not quite sure why that is used in the UK as but other than that, clearly I'll need to get some more information on it. Still waiting for my research assistant to send me that information.
So therefore, are we saying in a sense that some of these things and the words which are used at times are there to sort of bring forth an alarm bell?
Yes, because if you use the concept ethnic cleansing, and we all know what ethnic cleansing means, which is of course, wiping out of a particular race or ethnicity or ethnic group, that is rather extreme if that's what's happening in Tooting. So I really don't think that's what's happening, because I'm sure that would probably make mainstream news, and I probably then would have heard about it. If it's gentrification, then clearly we know that's been happening in London for quite a few, for a long time now. You have Brixton now, Peckham, quite a lot of places within London experience gentrification. But when you use the concept ethnic cleansing, we're entering into a different territory.
Well, it's emotive language. I mean, from what we've been experiencing so far, they have to use a language like that, or they chose to use a language like that to get us to react and talk about it now, because somebody getting their shop closed down in the middle of lots of people losing their jobs might not strike us as the biggest deal, because I know somebody who's worked in this agency for so long and lost her job recently. So in this kind of climate where people are losing their jobs anyway, businesses are closing down anyway, there needs to be a strong emotive language used to get us to sit on the SYLBOURNE show and talk about it. And I think ethnic cleansing would have been a strong word, because like you said, it's not really what's going on, but it needs our attention, and that's probably the best way they went about, getting us to talk about it.
Well, anyway, we'll follow up on this. I spoke to a couple of persons, and we will follow up on this and get some more facts, because I always pride myself in not jumping on things just because I'm jumping on. I don't do petitions that easily. Trust me, that's just me. I don't do demonstrations that easily. That's just me. That's my view. I can see some views going around here. James is talking. Arthur is talking. I let them communicate right there, and it's good to talk. Not that I need to bring that up there. It's important. Arthur is very passionate. James very passionate. Warren Harris came in and said there's nothing wrong with anger. We should be outraged. I believe that nothing is wrong with anger. We should be outraged. But how you channel your energy, I always say, is something else. But I'm not going to go and get angry all over the place and mash down and chant down Babylon. I rather come into my office here and strategize and say, how can I fix it? How can I liaise with David and say, let us see how we can create something so it doesn't happen? How can I touch base with Sherika? How can I get Keisha and say, strategy? I'm a strategist. That's what I believe. So my anger, you're not going to see my anger on display. I'm going to be in the backside of the desert and saying, let's see how we can fix it. Let's see how we can create a community fund. Let's see if we can create a community fund whereby these guys, when they are being unjust, we can say, listen, let's go to court. Go straight to the court now, right now. Go to the RCJ, Royal Court of Justice, get an ex parte application and get an injunction to stop those guys ASAP. That's what I would say right away. But where are you going to get the funds? Are we going to do a GoFundMe right away? Nah, we shouldn't be doing that as Black people. We should have those funds already. The Asians do it. Guys, I hear my emergency about anger. You can anger as much as possible, but I believe there's a better way. But be angry. That's my thought. I don't know. That's my view. Who want to jump in there before we close off? I'm talking about Peter Phillips and why didn't he go to the swearing ceremony?
Oh my God. I know you're trying to draw me out. Don't draw me out, SYLBOURNE, please. Please don't draw me out.
He's sending for you.
He's sending for me, David. If love draw me out on these platforms and then mute my mic and kick me off. Keisha, I get muted and kicked off all the time. You don't feel no way. But
by whom?
Who else?
Who holds the button? Who has the button?
Who holds the button?
Yeah, who's got his finger the command?
Listen, guys. Keisha was on the Jamaica debate the other night when the swearing ceremony. No, when the election was going on live.
You mean Sherika?
Sherika, and she saw a member of parliament or some politician, and she started going crazy. And everybody saw that. So I had to just remove her for a moment to calm her down.
Wow.
Whatever, guys. But I just want you to
placed her in a timeout.
I know, right? Big grown woman like me. But it's cool. I take my L's. Back to Peter Phillips not attending the ceremony. I just have two words to say. Poor sportsmanship.
There you go.
Now, can I just, and I hope my sister doesn't mind me saying this, but a couple of years ago, my sister stood for councillor in Westminster Abbey, and clearly for the Conservative Party, and she didn't win her seat, right? And on the day itself, when we were notified that she didn't win, she was obviously devastated. Okay, and we didn't stay for obviously the celebration or all that kind of thing. We just went home, and I've reflected on that moment. And when you think about the amount of work, somebody who was putting themselves forward for public office have to put in. They're knocking on so many thousands of doors, you know, committing every week to meeting people, greeting them, handing out leaflets, fundraising, campaigning. There's a lot of labor that goes into this workload, you know, to be told on the, you after you put so much work in, that's it, you didn't make it, you didn't pass the threshold, you haven't gotten past the hurdle. You just don't want to celebrate. You don't have the energy, anything left, because you've given your all to celebrate. And I take your point, Rika, that might be poor sportsmanship, but when you go through a process, maybe at that particular time he just didn't have any more to offer, and he just probably wanted to go and crawl underneath his bed. Maybe that's
the
what
kind
happened.
of person that should lead, because people fail all the time. You study something, you might fail. You have an exam, you might not pass all the time. And if this is what you represent, you do not need to be at the top of the
But
game.
that doesn't mean that he's not a great leader. It just means at that particular time he was completely deflated.
Well, it might be a critical time. This is a critical time. We need strong personalities, strong leaders, because we are in a critical time. And if you are proven to be showing your weakness in one of the most critical times, you weren't fit to be a leader, because this is a critical time. We're experiencing pandemics. We're experiencing all sorts of things. You do not need to show us your weakness at such a critical time. And so the best person won, whether you're JLP, PNP, you cannot go in your bed and cry.
Because I'm displaying my weakness trying to spell these things with my glasses.
Guys, just give me 2 seconds. I just need to put on my charge.
Yeah, but yeah, guys. I think without a doubt, you know, everybody's got their views on everything these days. Election is over. Andrew Holness has been sworn in. There was a representative for the opposition party, which was Floyd Morris and his wife, who was there, and Peter Phillips didn't attend. Somebody had said that that Andrew Holness did not attend portions last swearing ceremony, but he did attend as well. But there's a big issue here whereby, and as you know in politics, what is that red thing there? Is that true?
Like it's showing us leadership qualities.
I missed that one. Sorry, what was that?
No, we're saying, what was that red thing there? Sorry, red thing like.
I'm tired. I don't want to know. It's my tired. I had to go and plug in my laptop.
Yeah, a leader of opposition is not there yet in real terms, because even though he's an MP elect, he has not been sworn in as Her Majesty's representative. I think Sherika's point is that if he was running, listen, what Sherika is saying is that, listen, he was running to be the Prime Minister of Jamaica, and he would have been sworn in that night, at the same day, at the same time. So therefore, if you're saying you're running to be the Prime Minister, and that was your plan to lead the country for the next 4 or 5 years, then it's only right that you display that same level of leadership.
But he displayed it up to the point where he actually admirably, he stood up before the Jamaican people, and he stood down. He said, I'm no longer going to be Jamaica, is it Jamaica Labour Party? I'm a kind of PNP. Sorry. So right. So I think, you know, give him credit for actually being bold enough to actually, you know, immediately after the election, he stood up and said, you know what, I'm prepared to stand down. And I think that, to me, he closed the curtain at that point. And I personally, I think that's how far it really should have gone. You know, it takes a lot more grace, I suppose, to actually show up to something else, you know, that to me, he doesn't really have to attend.
Yeah.
You know?
He has to attend it. It's honorable. It's an honorable position.
Is it historical that they all attended?
So what's the protocol is the question.
Exactly. That's the protocol.
That's the protocol. If the
COVID
protocol is, number one, the first question is he the leader of the PMP? The answer is yes. What's the protocol for the swearing-in ceremony? Is it a protocol for the electoral leader for the opposition party to be present during the ceremony? And I take this back to say, I mean, we talk about politics, obviously it's politics, but take this back to football, for example. It's protocol that we have winners and losers celebrating in the World Cup final, in a Champions League final. You know, we have the losers unfortunately go up, collect their medals, and then the winners go up and collect their medals. The protocol's been broken now because of COVID, so it's just been the winners. But the protocol up until that point was that we had winners and losers. So if the protocol in this point was that we should have had the opposition leader of the party present, then breaking that protocol for me is not the way forward. Despite how you may feel personally inside, I think at that point in time you've broken protocol, and that's the issue. If that is the case. If it's not the protocol, you don't have to turn up, then don't turn up.
Well, no, it's also morality. It's like doing the right thing. If you reach a position in your life, in your career, some things are just the right thing to do, whether it's the protocol or not. It's just the right thing to do. And we hope that you will act on morality. We hope that you would act on good faith. We hope that you would act on, credibility and all these other qualities that the regular person don't want to care about. Like, as a regular normal worker, I don't need to display these things because that's where I'm in my own position. But when you reach a certain position, it means you should go a little bit above, and that's why you're there and I'm not there. And that is what we would hope to see from this. Is why you were the leader. This is why you were supposed to be running for prime minister, not just any other job. You wanted to run the whole country. So we expect a little bit more from you. What you and I would do, Keisha, what you and I would do, David, what you and I would do, SYLBOURNE, shouldn't be the same thing that he should do. We are not in the arena to run for it, and until we get to that arena, then we can push that extra breath out of us. But we're not in that arena. So.
Okay, well, James has summed it up. As the honorary Jamaican was learning his vocal, he didn't go to the sermon because he's too upset. In my opinion, rightly or wrong, his emotions got the better of him. And it's not easy when you have strong emotions, but poor sportsmanship sums it up. There it is. And that's a view. And this is what I realized tonight on the show. People have views. James have views. Arthur got views. Keisha have strong views.
Why did you have to put the emphasis on strong? I do have views, just like everybody else.
No, it's important. It's important that we place emphasis where emphasis is. It shows the character and the dynamism of persons. I'm chilled. I try to be chill, except when I'm angry, but nobody sees me angry.
Well, but SYLBOURNE, we cannot get you angry because the power is in your hands. So there's a bias to how far we would push it with you. We know you will mute us. We know you will kick us out.
So in the true sportsmanship fashion, there has to be squad rotation, SYLBOURNE.
No. I don't like this thing about me kicking out people. You guys are spending if you go on the SYLBOURNE show, you kicking out if you don't like it. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't do those things. We have got powers that be that oversees what I do. If anybody speaks against the government, somehow they come in and take them out.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened there. But listen, guys, it was a good show. And I think we have touched on some key, very controversial issues that we won't be able to address, especially with the diversity dance. It really flagged up something there to me that we need to really look at. That we're in this one big bubble in the UK, on this island. And what is being seen on television is like TV. What is TV now? TV is there for people to watch and to enjoy. People will feel offended, then they complain. But I think what people need to do now is, if you're not offended and you like something, then where do you write to? Do you write to BBC, or do you write to, should we create something called special com? We need to say, I love that com. I think that is something that needs to be done. So therefore, if Ofcom is saying there are 10,000, I can say, listen, that's nothing. I got 20,000 people who love this. Or the question is what David said, and you guys said, we need to break it down. Keisha, what was the complaint? Was it the music too loud? They didn't like the bass playing. They didn't like that rapping. They didn't like that screeching sound.
That's true. Too many lights.
I'll just mention one song by Childish Gambino, "This Is America." That video itself can set people off.
The one about "This Is America."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That can set people off. But again, it was taken for what it is, which is artistry in one respect.
What was that?
So,
that was the song. That was the dance. Yeah. Sorry, Karen.
You just wrapped up the video in 3 seconds there. But that's the point I'm trying to make. It's artistry. Some people are gonna love it. Some people are gonna hate it. And some people will complain. Some people will applaud it. Let's just hold it for what it is. It's art.
Yes. Okay, guys. Well, I know James said something about Instagram, but unfortunately for my schedule now, because I got a court hearing in the morning, I can't do Instagram. That's why I didn't push that one tonight, unless people want to go on Instagram. But I think it's a top. I think these topics are individual topics to be looked at. Eventually, the one regarding the issue in Tooting and the issue regarding the diversity dance. It's toxic, but it is worth getting into it. How you guys think? You ready to get into it? I know Keisha is in it a long time. All right. James is saying no. Who's going to go onto Instagram? So what needs to go on Instagram, if anything, with James? Guys, listen, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. And remember to like and subscribe to the SYLBOURNE Show. There's a YouTube version, which is out there. You can actually watch and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. Sherika, thank you so much for standing in. Even though you didn't stand in, you really went in and just go for the kill. You sat in displaying your red wear. I don't know that red stuff for, I like that thing. Let me just put on the red. That's, David, thank you so much again, as normal, for giving us updates on COVID. Keisha, as much as possible, thank you for your fire and as well. And I know Kima is in the background there, still at the same time feeding you with information. Kima,
get well soon.
Yeah, get well soon as well. James said, I want in. Well, you're in, James. There you are.
I want in.
James said, I want in.
Watch Childish Gambino first, James.
You're in, James. You're in. You're in. There you are.
Who is James anyway? James, you need to put your... I don't know. I'm sorry, James. I mean in the sense of... Here we go again. But, sorry, James. We love your input.
Yeah. James, you know, we have a big brother, small big brother, and little brother. After the big brother main show, James is the little brother there, the one that comes in and do the after show session. I don't know what happened today, why we're not having the after show session, because everything is not set up. James, listen, we do that next week, yeah? Okay, Kwame, thank you so much, Kwame, as well. Okay, guys, peace out.
Peace
Bye-bye.
out. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.